The initial stages of the battle went in the Umayyads' favor, with the Umayyad right wing under Ibn Umayyah slaying the commander of Ibn al-Ashtar's right and putting them to flight. However, the fallen banner was quickly taken up by Abdullah ibn Waqar, nephew to one of the Prophet's companions, who rallied enough of the fleeing soldiers back to his side to stall the Umayyad advance.
Wow, clutch, bro. I react to this so much of this. This is probably the most clutch thing that I have seen, bro. MVP, bro. No way. They have to win. 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 If they do not win, bro, that clutch cannot go in vain. They have to win. All right.
In our previous video, growing anti-Umayyad sentiment and the killing of Caliph Ali's son, Al-Hussein, saw Abdullah ibn al-Zubayr accepted as caliph across the vast majority of the caliphate. So heralded was al-Zubayr's ascension that coins were being minted in his name even on the frontiers of Persia, while the Umayyads under Marwan were restricted to control over Syria alone. But while this new Zubayrid Caliphate's victory may have seemed all but complete, the colors on a map alone cannot adequately represent the complicated political situation of the divided caliphate. We've also got a shout out for some great coverage of a historical struggle that came to the region a little later. Time and 500 hours via our link in the description. In many cases throughout the empire, local notables had nominally sworn loyalty to Ibn al-Zubayr while remaining functionally neutral, using the breakdown of authority to avoid Umayyad taxation. In others, Zubayrid authority was reliant on unsteady alliances with Kharijites and Shiites, and though these groups might have made common cause with Ibn al-Zubayr at first in order to topple the Umayyads, an alliance with the Kharijites would never be a lasting one unless he adopted their beliefs, alienating his other supporters in the process, and the Shia refused to name him caliph, seeking for a descendant of the murdered Caliph Ali to take his place on the throne. Thus, while Marwan controlled a secure Syrian power base and the caliphate's treasury, Ibn al-Zubayr struggled to create a united front amongst his supporters, leaving the Umayyads stronger and the Zubayrids weaker than their lopsided territorial control would suggest. Indeed, shortly after the Umayyad victory in the Battle of Majrahit, Marwan was able to take Egypt largely unopposed, with his clansman Amr ibn Sa'id entering Fustat and rallying its population back to the Umayyad cause, while Marwan stood in standoff with Egypt's Zubayrid governor Abd al-Rahman ibn Jadam outside the city, a major step towards reunifying the caliphate and a sign of Ibn al-Zubayr's hollow authority. Meanwhile, other outbreaks of civil strife were occurring across the caliphate, most prominently in the Khorasan region, with Abd Allah ibn Qazim having never been appointed to governor by any caliph, instead forcing out Umayyad governor Salm ibn Ziyad thanks to anti-Umayyad sentiments among the army. The power vacuum allowed numerous local communities and factions within the army to drive out officials and seize control across Khorasan. However, Ibn Qazim's effectiveness and brutality in suppressing both rebels and opportunistic Hephthalite raiders, reportedly ordering his forces to execute prisoners until the sun set after one victory, quickly ended any opposition, allowing him to rule with little regard for either faction during the following years of civil war. And in Kufa, a militant Shiite movement known as the Al-Tawabin or penitents was gathering steam. While the death of Al-Hussein had caused shock and outrage across the entire Muslim community, the impact had been greatest among the Shia community of Kufa, whose support Hussein had been traveling to enlist, with many seeking either vengeance or martyrdom to compensate for failing to aid him. With the outbreak of the second fitna, propagandists were sent to garrison towns across Kufa, calling for vengeance and the turnover of power to the family of the Prophet.
Bro, I know Iran is Muslim, but I can't stand seeing Iran. Like, ever since I really learned about Persian history, like I got more details about Persian history. like seeing Iran a part of the caliphate. It's like, bro, that doesn't look right. That doesn't look right, bro. Restore Persia back to its former glory.
The movement began to split, however, with the arrival of Mukhtar al-Thaqafi on May 7th, 684. Mukhtar claimed to be a follower of Muhammad ibn al-Hanafiyyah, a son of Caliph Ali through a different wife than the Prophet's daughter Fatima. Al-Mukhtar's claims that Ibn al-Hanafiyyah was the promised Mahdi, or the guided one, and the prospect of serving an heir to Ali, served to sway a portion of the penitents away from their leader, Suleiman ibn Surad, and create a bitter divide. When the Zubayrid governor, Abdallah ibn Yazid, arrived on May 15th, it was all he could do to prevent violence breaking out between the two factions or against their erstwhile Zubayrid allies. Further weakening Ibn al-Zubayr, his Kharijite allies in Mecca deserted him during this same period. Tiring of al-Zubayr's vague claims of ideological support, they relocated to Basra and the Al-Yamama region to raise a rebellion of their own under the leadership of Abu Talut. They would remain a major thorn in the side of the Zubayrids, even conquering much of the Arabian Peninsula in the coming years.
Holy bro. Hold on a second. I swear every single even in the early caliphate days, bro, we had civil wars where rebels had rebels. You can't be the Middle East unless you have a civil war where it's rebels that have rebels that have rebels.
Of all these groups, the first to engage in a major campaign would be Suleiman ibn Surad's penitents, who began their long-awaited invasion of Syria on November 15, 684. However, despite the lingering grief over Hussein's death and years of propaganda work, Suleiman was greatly disappointed by the turnout when his call to arms finally came, with only 5,000 out of 16,000 whose support had been promised materializing, and many of these deserting in the coming months. Nonetheless, despite Abdallah ibn Yazid's attempts to convince them to remain in Kufa in unity with the Zubayrids, he wasted no time in departing, leaving Kufa on the 17th, first to Hussein's tomb at Karbala for a day and night of mourning, and then on to Al-Qarqasiyah. Here they were provided supplies and information by the sympathetic Qaysi chieftain Zufar ibn al-Harith, one of the Zubayrid commanders during the disaster at Majrahid. The Umayyad army, returning from the subjugation of Egypt, had recently left Raqqa and was marching towards the town of Ain al-Wada on their way to invade Iraq. Informed of their whereabouts by Zufar, and enjoying superior mobility with his mounted army, Suleiman made haste to reach the site before his foes, arriving 5 days before the Umayyads and camping to the west of the city in order to cut them off from food and water. Having reinforced in Egypt and numbering close to 20,000, the Umayyad army held an advantage in numbers, but was divided against itself. While Ubaydallah ibn Ziyad was in overall command of the army, he was not present during its march.
I just realized something. That guy was black. That guy, he's black? Now, I know that black, like race doesn't equal ethnicity, but that kind of threw me off. I remember, like, when I forgot what video that was. So one of my Islam reaction, I think it was early Muslim expansion. Oh yeah, I think it was one of my early Muslim expansion episodes. And I saw black people. I'm like, wait, Arabia had black, like they were black Arabs. I'm like, what? And people told me, yeah, they're freaking black, like people that were inhabited in the freaking Arabian Peninsula. That was news to me. Freaking hell. But this guy, like, I don't know. He doesn't look black. Oh, like his beard doesn't look like it doesn't look black. He just looks like an Arab that's tan. But he looks black. I don't know. It kind of reminds of me actually. It's like I'm much more. My skin tone is way lighter than what you're seeing. It's just that because I live in Florida, the place with the highest UV radiation in the entire country, one of the highest in the world actually. I have a really horrible freaking tan. Like I said before though, if you watch my videos, you'll notice that my skin tone, it literally fluctuates. Like there's days where I just look like I'm just like a pure black person. Then there's days where I look like I'm actually mixed. It's I don't know. My friend told me like I have like 3 skin tones. Like right now, I kind of look more like I don't like black. Like I actually look kind of mixed right now. But I'm telling you, if I go outside in the sun for a bit, I come back and I will look just black. Like I was in the sun earlier today actually, and I was looking black, bro.
B friendly territory, leaving 2 of his commanders, Al-Hussein ibn Numair and Ibn Di al-Kala, to squabble over leadership, traveling and camping separately as they marched unknowingly towards the penitents' ambush. When they arrived at the beginning of January 685, it was Ibn Di al-Kala's smaller contingent that first saw battle, with the penitents being led to his camp by a local Bedouin and launching a surprise attack. Though outnumbered, surprise and confusion allowed Suleiman's charging horsemen to put al-Kala's forces to rout, with many being run down and slain and their camp abandoned to be looted. This initial engagement would do little to even the odds, however, and Ibn Numair was sent with a larger force of 12,000 on January 4th. During a brief standoff before the battle, the demands of each side were conveyed, with the penitents demanding Ibn Ziyad be turned over to them for his role in Hussein's death, and the Umayyads demanding Suleiman swear fealty to Marwan. But these demands were little more than formality, the 2 armies coming together in battle after their refusal. The penitents put their mobility to—
What was the whole point of that? What? Somebody explain that to me. What the hell is the point of that? Just go fight each other. What?
Good use, following advice from Zufar, reinforcing or withdrawing contingents as they came under attack, rather than confront the larger Umayyad force head-on. Both commanders led their respective centers, with elements of Suleiman's horsemen dismounting to support their comrades from the ground where the fighting was thickest.
I swear these 2 people look black, bro.
This skirmishing was won by the penitents in the
look at him. He looks. I swear, I thought I was looking at a freaking Rasta fella for his
term, though not without losses, and Ibn Numayr's forces withdrew in good order to regroup with those of Ibn Di al-Kala. Now reunited, with Ibn Ziyad chastising al-Kala for his earlier defeat and stripping him of command to end the feud, the Umayyad army now stood poised to bring their full numbers to bear, leading to a day of bloody fighting on the 5th that took a heavy toll on the already outnumbered Shia. When fighting resumed on the 6th, the exhausted penitents soon found themselves pressed from all sides, unable to prevent the Umayyads from flanking and surrounding their separated cavalry contingents. The same tactics that had previously enabled them to avoid the full weight of Umayyad numbers, now allowing them to be defeated piecemeal. Suleiman ibn Sarad and several of his close companions were slain by punishing volleys of arrows, with a series of spirited charges by Suleiman's second-in-command, Al-Musayyab ibn Najaba, and the late arrival of reinforcements from Basra doing nothing to turn the tide. The destruction of the penitent cause brought the Umayyads one step closer to recovering their caliphate, though Marwan would not long outlive it, dying in the spring of 685, either by plague or assassination carried out by his queen, depending on which accounts you believe. He was succeeded by his son Abd al-Malik. Ain al-Wada did not mark the end of Shia participation in the second fitna, however. With their leaders dead, survivors from Suleiman's movement turned to Mukhtar al-Thaqafi, who had been growing in power in Iraq by appealing to traditionally disadvantaged non-Arab converts. Though he continued to characterize himself as a mere follower of Ibn al-Hanafiyyah, their actual ties remained tenuous, with Mukhtar even using a falsified letter of support from his figurehead to sway local leader Ibrahim ibn al-Ashtar to back his coup, according to some accounts, and acting to isolate Ibn al-Hanafiya from the movement championing him. But whatever Mukhtar's motivations, October saw him break any remaining ties with Ibn al-Zubayr and oust his governor, Abdallah ibn Muti, taking control of most of Iraq and Armenia. Further Kharijite uprisings toppled Zubayrid authority in southern Persia and Bahrain, leaving both sides of the Persian Gulf in Kharijite hands, and Ibn al-Zubayr's would-be caliphate
they even got into what the heck? Bro, who are these people?
than ever. But as weakened as he may have been, he was still far from helpless, defeating both an Umayyad push on Medina under the Qudar tribal leader, Hubaysh ibn Dulja, and a Kharijite attack on Basra to secure his remaining holdings, leaving the final victor of the civil war still in doubt.
Bro, that's literally every Middle Eastern civil war. No one is winning. It's forever.
The next few years would see some of the Umayyads' momentum reversed. The invasion force that had routed Suleiman's penitents made slow progress after this victory, delayed by Marwan's death and uprisings from the Qaysi tribes that had supported Dahak at Marj Rahit. When they finally launched their invasion of Iraq a year and a half later, in the summer of 686, Al-Mukhtar was at something of a disadvantage, as his attempts to appease both the Arab tribal nobility and non-Arab converts, or Mawali, had fallen through and led to attempts by the tribal nobility to depose him over perceived erosion of their privileges. This conflict was further stoked by Ibn al-Zubayr's brother and governor of Basra, Musab, who courted the disgruntled Kufan nobility in an attempt to regain Iraq. The death of one of Mukhtar's commanders to plague shortly after his victory over an Umayyad probing force near Mosul sparked rumors that his army had been defeated, with an opportunistic revolt breaking out in late June. Nevertheless, the besieged Mukhtar was able to both put down this coup attempt, holding out in his palace long enough for Ibrahim ibn al-Ashtar's army to return from the Umayyad front and relieve him, and mobilize a large army of predominantly Persian-speaking Mawali and Shia partisans to confront the Umayyads, meeting them at the beginning of August, some 15 miles east of Mosul on the banks of the Khazir River. While Ziyad's army had been estimated to number as high as 80,000, this figure is far out of proportion with these.
Bro, that's the thing about Arab sources. A lot of Arab Muslim sources tend to over-exaggerate a lot. Like, a lot. Like, that is something that I have picked up on from reacting to a lot of these series. They tend to over-exaggerate. So it's like, press X to doubt, realistically speaking. I never understood the whole point of over-exaggerate. I mean, in some circumstances, yeah, but overall, for the most part, I don't know why people over-exaggerate for. Like, Caesar, when I was reacting to Caesar, I gotta continue that series actually. He just over-exaggerates too, man. It's
same army's numbers during the Battle of Ain al-Wada or similar armies raised out of Syria, and is likely reflective of historian Abu Miknaf's anti-Umayyad leanings. Though no fully reliable figure exists, the true number was likely little higher than 30,000, even allowing for reinforcement from the remains of the failed push on Medina. Even so, the Umayyads held a definite numerical advantage over the 13,000 under Ibrahim ibn al-Ashtar, but were as weakened by division as before. The commander of their left wing, Umayr ibn al-Hubab, held a meeting with Ibrahim the night of August 5th to offer his defection in the coming battle. Following Umayyad's advice, Ibn al-Ashtar wasted no time in bringing the battle to the Umayyads the following morning, ignoring the normal protocol of raiding and skirmishing as his smaller army came crashing into their larger yet still disorganized foe. The initial stages of the battle went in the Umayyads' favor, with the Umayyad right wing under Ibn Numayr slaying the commander of Ibn al-Ashtar's right and putting them to flight. However, the fallen banner was quickly taken up by Abdullah ibn Waqar, nephew to one of the Prophet's companions, who rallied enough of the fleeing soldiers back to his side to stall the Umayyad advance.
Wow, clutch, bro. I react to this so much of this. This is probably the most clutch thing that I have seen, bro. MVP, bro. No way. They have to win. 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 If they do not win, bro, that clutch cannot go in vain. They have to win. They have to win.
Left, accounts conflict on Umayyad's role, with the historian Al-Kalbi claiming the promised defection never materialized and Umayyad remained loyal to Ibn Ziyad, while others hold he deserted the battlefield. As he and Ibn al-Ashtar conversed peacefully after the battle, the latter is likely closer to the truth. But either way, he took a rather passive role, his inaction leaving the Umayyad center open for the Kufan right and center to launch a desperate flanking attack. Crucial in this effort was Sharik ibn Jadir al-Taglibi, a warrior who had fought under Caliph Ali in the first fitna, whose furious cavalry charge carved open a path to Ubayd Allah ibn Ziyad and toppled the Umayyad banners.
Damn!
With the death of Ibn Ziyad and the continuing dissension and rivalry within the Umayyad ranks, the great army quickly dissolved, Umayyad's forces departing peacefully, while many others drowned trying to flee across the Khazir river. The short but...
So... he did his part? I mean, he was supposed to defect, but he didn't? But he still did nothing, leaving the enemy ranks open. So, I mean, I guess he did his part, right? I don't know. That's weird. I don't know. Somebody explain that to me. I don't know. Like, would you call that defection? I mean, he didn't help him, right? You just did nothing. You just like you said, passive. So I mean, him being passive just enabled them to freaking win. So I guess, yeah, defection.
Brutal battle would delay any further Umayyad move against Iraq for several years, but do little to secure Mukhtar's unstable position, with the Zubayrids and his own tribal nobility still conspiring against him.
Oh, poor guy.
Some months later, most likely in the late autumn of 686, Musab ibn al-Zubayr would march out of Basra for his own invasion, bolstered by exiled Kufan noble rebels. Given little time to recover, Ibn al-Ashtar's army made haste to meet them, though without the leader that had carried them to victory against the Umayyads. Ibn al-Ashtar himself, now the Zubayrid-friendly governor of Mosul, abandoned Mukhtar's cause under unclear circumstances in Khazir's aftermath, the coinciding defection of Umayyad suggesting a likely pact between the two. Amr ibn Shumayt took command. Though lacking his predecessor's experience, his army soon met with disaster just north of Basra at Madha, with resentment among the tribal nobility in both armies towards the Mawali making up the bulk of Mukhtar's forces, coming to the fore in gruesome fashion. While non-Arabs were traditionally barred from serving as mounted warriors, Mukhtar had relaxed this rule and increased their pay to earn their support. Yet at the Battle of Madha, Ibn Shumayt once more required them to dismount and fight as foot soldiers. When Ibn Shumayt was slain and his army routed, the Kufan horsemen escaped, while huge numbers of the Mawali infantry were run down and slaughtered by the vengeful exiles, suffering a massively disproportionate death toll, with few escaping and no prisoners taken. This disaster shook faith in Mukhtar's messianic movement, and total collapse was not long in coming. The Zubayrid invasion force made haste by boat and horse towards Kufa, hastily assembling another army and attempting in vain to delay the invaders by flooding the canals along the Euphrates. Mukhtar would personally lead his army in the second desperate clash against the Zubayrids at Harura on Kufa's outskirts. Mukhtar and his forces fought bravely, with the battle initially in the balance. Muhammad ibn al-Ashath, leader of the Kufan exiles fighting under Musab, was slain, and the Highland Hijazi tribesmen, making up a fifth of the Basran force, fled early in the battle. However, these initial successes would be brought to naught when the Basran left wing, which, under the cautious Al-Malab Abi Sufra, had initially held back from the fighting, swung forward, crushing and routing Kufan forces already bloodied and exhausted from almost a day's fighting. Though Mukhtar narrowly escaped, his army and hopes were destroyed, and his supporters executed en masse by the victors, with the 4-month palace siege in Kufa only dragging out the inevitable. On April 3rd, 687, Musab's forces stormed his palace and executed him, swiftly restoring Armenia and Iraq to the Zubayrid fold. Other than Kharajite raiding and small border confrontations, the resulting Umayyad-Zubayrid stalemate would persist for the next 4 years, with both sides exhausted by the long civil war,
average Middle Eastern civil war,
and no major battles between the two occurred until 691. During this time, the long-neglected frontiers saw action once more, with an Umayyad army under Zubayr ibn Qais dispatched to the mountains of Algeria, where the Byzantine-allied Berber king, Caecilius, had taken advantage of the civil war to overrun much of Ifriqiya. Defeating and killing him in 688, Zuhair retook Kairouan and re-established the caliphate as the dominant force in the region, with only the Byzantine stronghold of Carthage remaining a threat. And Abd al-Malik remained active.
I swear, Justinian is crying in his grave, bro. This is literally only 100 years after Justinian almost restored. He restored most of Rome's borders, and it's pretty much reversed. Mad, bro. Poor Justinian, man.
Active against his Zubayrid rivals during the apparent lull as well, engaging in intrigue and diplomacy with Zubayrid supporters across the caliphate, taking advantage of Ibn al-Zubayr's weakness and the growing apathy towards his predecessor's misdeeds after nearly a decade of war to chip away at his foe's support base. Though his next attempt to invade Iraq in 689 was interrupted by his kinsman Amr ibn Said's short-lived coup attempt, the end of the civil war would almost come as an anticlimax after the fierce battles of its first years, with the majority of Musab's army defecting and abandoning him to die when Abd al-Malik finally recaptured Iraq in October 691. Abd al-Malik had Musab and his son Isa buried with honor, lamenting the tragedy of the civil war, but despite his poetic words, he remained ruthless in rooting out any remaining opposition, besieging Mecca and mopping up Abdullah ibn Zubayr's last supporters the following year. Though putting down the Kharajite rebels and independents such as Ibn Qasim would take several more years, the Umayyad Caliphate had emerged victorious against its first would-be usurper. The second fitna had been a long and bloody affair, marked with a further departure.
Yeah, but there's still these people right here, bro. Look at them. They're so thick.
From the unity of
oh my gosh, so this is just like a Middle Eastern traditional thing where it's like you get a civil war and this like a certain faction from that civil war just can't be defeated, so that it's just like, okay, screw it, we're just gonna end it off here. Like, nah, bro, don't take that seriously though. Well, I don't know, man, that's just what I've noticed.
An era. Even during the first fitna, the prospect of Muslims fighting Muslims remained a painful aberration, with concerted efforts at mediation preceding battles, and the conflict being brought into religious arbitration.
Oh, if only they knew. Muslims fighting Muslims, painful. Oh boy! If only they knew. Oh my goodness, that reminded me of something, bro. Okay, unrelated topic, right? Just stay with me here, okay? Stay with me, okay? This reminds me of my ex when we first started dating and we got into our first argument. And she was like,
Oh my gosh, what if we get into more arguments?
and then I was like, oh nah, that's not really gonna happen. And she was like so concerned that would like break the relationship. Spoiler alert, we got into a lot of arguments and that broke the relationship. That's what this reminds me of, bro. This is exactly what this reminds me of, bro. Like, oh boy.
But during the second fitna, the sectarian schisms arising out of the first and the blood feuds that accompanied them made violence and retribution all too easy to accept. But shaken though it might have been, the caliphate remained whole, with further victories still lying ahead in Africa, Asia, and even the unsuspecting Visigothic kingdom of Iberia. Our series on early Islamic history will
all the way to they went all the way into Iberia
and have pressed the bell button to see it. Please consider liking, commenting, and sharing. It helps immensely.
I don't know, man. That's whole when like half of Arabia isn't even part of the caliphate. Okay, if you're new to my channel, man, you got any suggestions, just comment it down below. Eventually I'll probably do it. If you are a active viewer of mine, I suggest you check out my channel membership, so that you get perks such as quicker upload speed if you need it. Your videos will be reacted to much faster because I have a lot of videos to do. More priorities to comments, such as responding to comments. And not only that, but some people I will respond to a comment and people will reply to that comment, but due to the fact that A, I have a life, B, I get so many comments, I'm not able to respond to said comments. However, if you are a channel member, then I will give you the utmost priority and importance, of course, rather than just average people. And it's only 99 cents a month. Like I said, I plan to expand it much more when I get more members. Right now I have 2 members. I used to have like 2 more, but you know, they left, so it is what it is. But like I said, if you are an active viewer of mine, I highly recommend you to go and check out my channel membership, man. You know, beneficial for both of us type of ordeal, you know. But anyways, man, make sure to like and subscribe, man. Thank you for watching this video, and goodbye.